At 5:23 p.m. local time, an F-16 from the US Air Force's 421 Fighter Squadron was providing top cover for a US naval task force steaming along the Yemeni coast. The patrol had been uneventful until that moment, when everything changed in seconds. Unbeknownst to the pilot, a Houthi SA-6 battery near Hodeidah had locked onto the aircraft and fired a missile. With a maximum effective range of 23 kilometers and a top speed of Mach 2.8, the pilot had only a handful of seconds to react. Fortunately, the F-16 is equipped with advanced electronic countermeasures that can render such a threat largely ineffective. The aircraft's AN/APG-83 radar, mounted in the nose, serves as the first line of defense. It detected the incoming SA-6 at a range of 42 kilometers, prompting the pilot to immediately initiate a steep dive from 30,000 feet to 15,000 feet. This maneuver was essential because the SA-6 is a semi-active radar-guided missile, relying on continuous illumination from ground-based fire control radars to guide it toward the target. Once launched, the missile receives updated guidance data in flight, and its onboard seeker activates in the final moments to home in on the target. By diving sharply, the pilot aimed to disrupt the Houthi radar's fire control solution, but the attempt fell short. The SA-6's radar system, capable of tracking fighter-sized targets with a 5 square meter radar cross-section out to 470 kilometers, quickly reacquired the F-16 and detected additional incoming missiles. With only 18 seconds remaining to react to the incoming barrage, the pilot continued aggressive evasive maneuvers that severely disrupted the SA-6 radar's tracking ability. Although the system can handle up to 20 simultaneous targets, its effectiveness drops to just 47% for threats at 60 degrees off bore sight, effectively rendering some of the missiles invisible to the ground radar during the F-16's wild turns. This is where the aircraft's next defensive layer takes over. Mounted on each wing pylon is the Terma Pylon Integrated Dispensing System, or PIDS, weighing 19 kilograms per unit and reducing the F-16's overall payload capacity by 3%. The trade-off is considered worthwhile because of its capabilities. Each PIDS features 6 Hensoldt AR-60V2 ultraviolet sensors providing full 360-degree spherical coverage and the ability to detect missile launches out to 10 kilometers. When the systems detected the approaching SA-6 missiles, they automatically dispensed 12 MJU-50B infrared flares and 24 R180 chaff bundles, creating a half-kilometer cloud of IR and RF decoys. Although the decoy cloud was impressive, it still failed to fully break the missile's lock. The pilot therefore activated his final defensive measure, the AN/ALQ-184 jamming pod mounted on the aircraft's belly. Operating across the 2 to 20 GHz frequency range with digital radio frequency memory technology, the pod was more than capable of countering the SA-6's 6 to 8 GHz fire control radar. Once powered up, the ALQ-184 immediately severed the missile's data link to their ground guidance station, reducing the SA-6's accuracy by 70% and forcing the remaining rounds onto harmless ballistic paths that passed well clear of the aircraft. Despite this successful defeat of the attack, the Houthis were far from finished. Just 44 minutes later, at 6:07 p.m. local time, a US MQ-9 Reaper drone operating out of Chebeli airfield in Djibouti was conducting a routine reconnaissance mission approximately 50 miles northeast of Hodeidah. The MQ-9 Reaper was continuing its surveillance of Houthi supply convoys as they moved to reinforced positions near the town, when the frustrated Houthi gunners, still angry at their failure to down the F-16, decided to take another shot at the drone. Although the Reaper is less advanced than the fighter, its Pandora missile warning system immediately detected the new SA-6 launch. Within 8 seconds of the warning, the drone automatically commanded its AN/ALE-47 dispenser to release countermeasures while simultaneously climbing above 15,000 feet to keep the incoming missiles outside the aircraft's 30-degree blind zones directly below the horizon. As the Reaper continued its climb, The AL countermeasure system fired 8 MJU-60B flares in just 4 seconds, creating a 300 square metre cloud of infrared and chaff decoys designed to confuse the missiles. The system, however, is not unlimited. It carries a maximum load of 60 MJU-60B flares and 120 RR 180 chaff bundles, enough for roughly 12 full engagements per sortie. Once 75% of the inventory is expended, the drone must abort the mission and return to base. The decision to expend countermeasures is guided by the ALR-69 radar warning receiver, which monitors frequencies from 0.5 to 20 GHz and can detect SA-6 radar emissions at ranges up to 200 km with 1 degree azimuth accuracy. This capability allows the Reaper to respond to Houthi missile launches in as little as 2 seconds, enabling timely deployment of countermeasures to avoid a direct hit. Despite the successful defence, the drone did not escape unscathed. After landing back at base, maintainers found that several of the SA-6's 12,000 steel pellets had punctured the right wing. Fortunately, the damage was repairable, and the Reaper was back in the air shortly afterward. While these missile launches may appear routine, this incident was anything but. It marked the first time the Houthis had fired on a manned aircraft during the current conflict. The US response to this unprovoked attack would establish a significant new precedent in an already escalating war. In the immediate aftermath of the attacks, both US Central Command and the White House were stunned by the brazen daylight assault on American forces. President Trump quickly concluded that nothing short of an immediate and overwhelming response would suffice. Within 8 hours of the incident, the guided missile destroyer USS Spruance received orders to move closer to the Yemeni coast. Once positioned in its launch box, the crew received encrypted strike authorization from CENTCOM. While Tomahawk missiles are the usual choice for such missions, the Navy opted for a more unconventional approach. Every Arleigh Burke-class destroyer carries a mixed loadout in its vertical launch system cells, including Tomahawks, SM-2s, ESSMs, anti-submarine rockets, and SM-6s, with ballistic missile defense-capable ships also carrying SM-3s. This diverse mix allows a single surface ship to handle both offensive and defensive roles against a wide range of threats. The decision to use the SM-6 was deliberate and carried a strong message. As one of the Navy's most advanced air defense missiles, second only to the SM-3, the SM-6 is normally reserved for the most serious threats because of its 1,500 kg explosive warhead and Mach 3.5 speed. Although originally designed for air defense, the Navy has in recent years adapted the SM-6 for surface-to-surface strikes as well. Compared to the Tomahawk's roughly 1,500-mile range, the SM-6 is significantly faster, making it far more difficult to intercept and serving as a critical interim capability until the Navy strike missile is fully fielded. The Navy has possessed this surface attack mode for years, but had never publicly employed it until this mission. The choice of the SM-6 was driven by the fact that the target was mobile. Satellite imagery showed the SA-6 launcher and its accompanying SA-91 radar still located in Hodeidah, but with the launcher capable of travelling at up to 34 miles per hour, it could easily be hundreds of miles away by the time strike orders arrived. Time was therefore critical, and every second counted. After receiving the launch command from CENTCOM, the USS Spruance's crew made best speed toward the designated launch basket in the southern Red Sea. Meanwhile, the combat watchstanders had less than 30 minutes to plan, route, and approve the firing solution, because a missile does not simply fly in a straight line. The SM-6 does not simply fly in a straight line to the target, which would make it extremely easy to intercept. Instead, the crew must program up to dozens of waypoints to guide the missile to the first pre-planned point. Once it arrives there, the classified mission library takes over and directs the missile toward its final objective. At approximately 3:45 AM local time, a brilliant flash lit the night as 2 SM-6 missiles roared out of the vertical launch cells. Covering just several hundred miles, the missiles reached their target in roughly 6 minutes. Despite the Houthis having built up a robust air defense network, it proved meaningless against the SM-6, which glided effortlessly before slamming into the SA-6 launcher. Post-strike signals intelligence intercepts confirmed the site's complete destruction and the elimination of 8 Houthi operators, but the United States was far from finished. Between 2014 and 2015, the Houthis seized 12 to 15 SA-6 launchers from the Yemeni government. Over the following decade, Iran provided extensive assistance in upgrading their radars and installing modern seekers on the missiles. As a result, the Houthis now possess a large stockpile of ordnance and have repeatedly demonstrated their willingness to use it against US aircraft. This could not be allowed to continue. After the February 20th strike that eliminated the specific launcher involved in the earlier attack, the Navy decided it was time to deliver a permanent message to the Houthis about the consequences of targeting American aircraft. Starting at 6 p.m. local time, the first of 4 waves of F/A-18AS launched from the deck of USS Harry S. Truman. These aircraft carried far more potent weapons than usual. While a typical strike mission might employ 2,000-pound JDAMs or bunker busters, the Navy went all in for this operation. The F/A-18S that night were armed with AGM-154 joint standoff weapons. The AGM-154 JSRDU is a long-range air-to-surface weapon capable of reaching 117 to 130 kilometers when launched from high altitude. It can carry either 145 bomblets or 192 pounds of high-explosive payload, and its GPS guidance makes it a precision long-range strike option. That night, it served exactly as the Navy's extended arm of justice in the region. Between 6 p.m. and 11:30 that night, successive waves of F/A-18S conducted attack runs on storage bunkers near Sanama, and to ensure total destruction, the guided missile destroyer USS Gravely followed up by launching 6 Tomahawk missiles into the smouldering debris once the airstrikes concluded. In total, the operation eliminated 14 Qahir M2 ballistic missiles, 3 additional SA-6 launchers, and 23 other assorted anti-ship cruise missiles. Although this strike significantly undermined the Houthis' capacity to conduct attacks on air and ground targets, it did not eliminate their entire arsenal, leaving that task for future engagements. Do you believe the United States could take further steps to dismantle the Houthis' war-making capabilities more comprehensively? Until next time.